And we're working. Work, 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 work. All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a nice day. This is one of my Ficus Microcarpas. One of the group that I got 5 years ago. I got 4 of these plants that were just really big, overgrown in a mom and pop nursery. I have it in a playlist called my tall Microcarpa just because this was the tallest of the 4 that I bought. At one point I was actually going to keep it together and I was going to make it like a yard feature. I was thinking about I was going to plant it by my front door and kind of have it as a yard feature and try to prune and wire it there where people might see when they come up and knock on the door. I realized that was a really bad idea, but it was about a year after I got it, so about 4 years ago, then I went ahead and decided to go ahead and chop it way back and prune it and everything. It was actually, it was this original tree that I got all the cuttings in that one bucket that I got like, I think there's like 10, 15 cuttings in the one bucket. So when you're looking at, I'm going to show you this picture here. When you're looking at this picture, the left side of it is actually this tree, and then the right side of it is this tree here. And I just did this video about a month ago, so I don't really want to do an update on it just yet. But I am just going to show you how this one's kind of turning out here a month later and how well it's kind of budding out with the nice small leaves and everything. Take a look at the other side of it real quick. I also got a couple of my other little cuttings from this tree when I split it apart too. Really have enjoyed working with this species of Microcarpa. Take a look at what the other side looks like before I get going here too much. I haven't done anything with this tree since October. I want to continue to allow it to grow out some more, but I have noticed that it's got a lot of growth pushing into some odd spots, just some, bad growth, straight up growth, straight down growth, things like that. And so I'd like to start developing, allowing the branches I'd like to keep to develop a little more. So this will be a bit of a kind of a partial defoliation and a hard prune at the same time. But I would like to, like I said, leave as many of the branches I plan on keeping as possible. A couple days ago, I found some scale on it. I cleaned as much of that off as I can see. I might see a little more as I work on it now. Since it is a little bit of a smaller tree, I'm going to go ahead and try to work and show you a little more of what I'm doing and talk about a little more of what I'm doing as I'm doing it, just because it's not so bulky to work with and everything. Also, I would like to mention this thing has been in the pot just as long as that other one. This one's just in this pot here. I mean, one of the things that I played around with, I don't know why I did this. I got a root coming out of the bottom of it. It was long and attached to, I think, the pallet it was sitting on. And I tried to see if I could just set it up in the pot. And sure enough, it took off in there. And what purpose I was serving with that, sometimes I really don't know. I have been kind of dragging my feet on getting a new pot. Just simply because, well, first, I don't really have a good pot that'll fit it. I do have some that'll fit it, but they already have trees in it. And then most of the ones that I have gotten through time, I've gotten along the lines of thinking more along like my cuttings, and they're kind of, they might be wide enough for it, but they're very thin. And anything, that's going to be deep enough to handle a pot like that or a tree like this kind of gets expensive as you try to get, the better looking pots in there. And so, like I said, just been kind of dragging my feet on it. Then it also just kind of makes me realize that it's still draining, and you can see it's still perfectly healthy too. So there really is no reason to have to be repotted now, other than I was basically a super rookie when I went to go repot it the first time. Probably could have worked it a little bit harder, but at this point here, this pot's about ready to turn into dust. I may even just wait for it to fall apart one day in a storm or something, and then just repot it then. We'll have to see. Of course, I'd like to have a pot ready for it by that time, but let's go ahead and get to work here. Alright, so I'm going to start up here in the apex, which basically has like this branch. There's a huge chop scar right here. The only reason I left this tree this tall is because right here there's an aerial root. Tried to save it. It looks like it is going to be okay, like it's still growing, but it kind of wraps around. And I was really fascinated with aerial roots at first, not so much now, but since I've kind of already started this tree this way, I'm going to leave it this way. I have plenty of shorter trees. So I'm going to start with this branch here. And again, this guy here just coming right out of the bottom. And that even has a secondary branch there with it. This one's going straight up. Right next to another little twig there that's going straight up. And then it's got this branch dropping down off of it, which I thought about cutting everything else off and leaving that and allowing it to kind of grow up. But sometimes they get that goofy long shoot there. Plus it's a little bit too much just right out of the bottom of it. So I'm going to take that off. And then somehow it's got really weak growth there. I don't know if you guys can really see how weak that growth is there. So I'm just going to cut back to the better growth. And then that leaves that just right there. Just with the two other sub branches coming off of it. Alright, part of the idea of me doing close-ups like this and everything is the longer I work, the more you guys will be able to see, but I don't want to defoliate any more than I really kind of quote-unquote need to. So I did leave those two twigs on there with most of their leaves on the end. Hopefully as I keep going you guys can still see. Rather than moving over to this other branch, I decided to just kind of work right here where I can see some obvious straight down growth. And again, just kind of hoping the more I do, the better you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. This one has and then some straight up stuff there. This spot here is just too busy. There's 4 branches coming out of that one knot there. I'd like to keep probably just one. I say 4 branches, there's 4 twigs coming out of there. Undecided as to whether I'm going to keep that little twig right there. So I just pulled off a couple leaves just so I could see it a little bit better. Alright, switched around to the other side here, hoping you guys could see straight up growth there. And then look, I'm going to get this straight down piece and there's nothing even, no other good growth even there. And since there's growth on the other side and actually that there, I think I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. I know at one point, if you go back and watch these old videos, at one point I was pruning down below really, really hard, and I was trying to let this grow just to cover up that wound there. Kind of surprised in this many years it hasn't healed up more than it already has, but not much I can do about that. And then right here in the apex, kind of got to the other side just so I could try to even get a better look at it from another angle. There's about 5 twigs all coming out. Well, not heading the same way, just coming out of the same spot on that twig. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of them off, except for the one that would be on the opposite of that other one I decided over here. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep or not, or that I stated over there. All a little bit too close together to keep the whole thing. And actually there's 2 there, so just allow that. That should just kind of continue to go up like that. And then before I move down, there's this other branch here and the straight down growth that's there. This one's almost just like the apex out here on the end. There's 6 or 7 twigs all coming out of the same spot almost. This guy here is almost also coming straight up. And that one's kind of growing backwards into the tree some. And one last glance at what should be the front here before I move down. And I just kind of realized sometimes when I try to spin this tree around too much, I forget that it's angled so differently. You guys can't see it, but there's another piece there about coming straight down. So there are 3 branches here. Got this longer growth coming out this way, which almost makes me want to cut off, but then these 2 are right at the same spot. And so I think I'll take this one off. 2 smaller branches coming off of that bigger one there, and that one was actually growing into this piece here. And then this piece just has one of those busy ends. And this is the back side of what I'm working on right there. And this piece is just coming out way too close to the trunk. And there, that sub branch has two branches coming off. I'll take a few of the older leaves off, but try to leave more than just a couple at the growing tip too. And then out here you got your really busy end there. And that should be it for that branch. And then just while I'm on this side, I'm going to take out some more of this crotch growth here. Thinking that's what's kind of ruining the camera angle a little bit, is there's so much foliage right here. When it gets close up like that, it's hard to see what you're doing. Now, this smaller branch here comes straight off the trunk by itself, not part of anything bigger. Right there, and it just has it's got that piece coming straight up. And then again, just try to pull off a couple leaves there just to see a little bit better. And then there's this branch here. It's actually a lot thicker than that branch I was just looking at. Of course, it was getting a lot of its thickness from a little bit of straight down growth. Let's see if we can see it from the other side a little bit better again. That's this branch right here that I was just talking about. And it's got some straight up growth too. I really like the length that was getting, but and then before I switch sides here, got this last branch right here. Alright, and sometimes when I do these close-ups, I even lose track of what really can be seen and what can't be seen, so I figure just kind of midway here, show you where we're at. Worked on that apex first, those were those first couple of branches. Then I just came down this side of the tree, which is not much on this side of the tree, so it didn't take too long there. That was that one shot. I did go back and forth with it a bit. And then you can see there I got that side. There's some foliage coming this way I haven't done anything with yet. There's a sub kind of a trunk coming this way. This little group here is super busy. And then down here on the bottom, that's a whole nother little stump there. We'll deal with that at the end. All right, let's see what we got. Got plenty of crotch growth and straight down growth. Hoping maybe after I pop off some of the more obvious ones, be able to see a little bit better. this, you know, good little bit of back budding there, but then of course is growing right into this, so I'd have to take this off. This branch is kind of growing backwards. And then I'm just going to go ahead, and you guys might not be able to see it, that's just a little short branch there. It's thicker, but it's just a little short, and it really only has 2 branches going straight up, and it had that other branch going straight down in there. I'm going to just take it off. I think at this point it's probably pretty unneeded. And it was growing twigs where I didn't want them. Busy part up in here. So that is from this way here, the left half of that other sub trunk there. There's the right half going that way. Before I move though, I'll pop that off. And the end of this branch here has like 8 little twigs coming off of it. And they're almost all either going straight up or straight down. To cut back and see if there's anything salvageable on there. And then after further inspection here, this one is just in a really bad spot. I have to pull that out. That was what I was calling the left branch. Now it's the right one from looking at it this way. Not sure if I have the camera low enough for you guys there. Yeah, it is. There's another branch coming out under that. It's actually coming out of the main part of the trunk. Is just under what I was just working on. And just a couple little twigs coming out right next to the trunk. That would never work in the long run. I don't like the way it's pointing straight down, but as of now in that spot there, it's better than nothing in that spot. Hopefully when I come through with wire here, maybe this fall, I can kind of fix that. And then just while I'm here, there's a chop here. I don't really remember if I made that chop or not, but I was trying. I remember at one point, you can even see an old branch right there. I was trying to keep a branch below it and, well, above it there, and then this one below it, just trying to allow that to heal up. So I'll keep this one that has stayed below it. Now after taking a second look at this branch, got the bigger trunk here, this branch, and then this branch, and this one's kind of coming right out by the trunk line there. Just a little awkward looking. Got this trunk here coming out of the side. If I could go back and like I would, when I repotted this originally, I didn't have a YouTube channel. I wasn't taking videos of anything. I had no tripod or anything either. So when I took pictures, it was basically where I could stop and kind of clean my hands up a little bit and get a quick shot. So I don't really know if I left that in there trying not to damage aerial roots, or if I left it in there because it is good infused in there. Of course, if it wasn't at that time, it might be now 4 years later. But I kind of wish it just was not there. I mean, I might take another look at that when I have it up. When I do go to repot, I'm going to seriously consider taking it out. I'd like to be able to maybe salvage it and take it out and use it. But I may actually consider cutting it as well. But, you know, in the time, for now, I'm just going to kind of treat it as if I'm going to leave it there. I think I've talked about it before, where my one clump had some, my one is actually the shortest clump of this group that I had a couple of smaller trunks in the middle kind of die off, and it made everything just kind of rot and kind of collapse on itself. I was able to save the two ends, but just that rot in the middle just kind of made the whole thing just kind of fall in. So I wouldn't want to cut it off now or anything like that. So I'll just kind of prune it like I am going to leave it there. You guys may notice I actually just hit that with the knob cutters a little bit. Oh great, and then I just broke that with my hand there trying to show you that. At least there's still one good growing tip coming off there. Now you can see it better though, but I left this big scar here, and then the one that you can't see right now on the other side up there, up on top. I left those alone. I think I was kind of guilty at one point when I was working all my trees too much. Basically, I think I overworked them a little bit, and I think I'm just going to let time kind of take care of those a little, and then just see what happens with them. Take off that, and then the straight up one. The other odd thing about this little trunk here is that it's got this bigger branch coming off the side, and there's just much more healthy and better growth coming off of the side than there is coming out of what would be the apex of that little stump if it was in fact its own little tree. Don't really know if that's going to come off in the picture all that well, but we'll see. Once I get started with some of these things, it seems like it's so much, and then once you pop off a couple of unwanted branches and a handful of leaves, all of a sudden there's just not much there. And then go ahead. So that was a lot of big healthy growth that was really coming out in a bad spot. Maybe with me pruning that back so hard, might feed some energy back up in here where it really kind of should be, and I think it'd be in a little bit better place for me for this tree. Again, I don't know if you guys can see, that's just kind of some dying back there. And then just some awkward grouping of a bunch of twigs back closer. That one's not exactly in a great spot there, but maybe time or wire might fix that. And then these two coming right out of that chop scar there. And then basically this little piece here has almost no life on it. And so I am just going to leave that. Just so that there's something on that side. And we'll see what happens there. Alright, so about ready to wrap things up here. This is what I've been considering the front side of the tree. Still, there's a few, like even here, and here, and back here a bit. Couple little awkward branches. Hopefully time, and then in the future some wire can go ahead and fix some of that stuff. Should be able to develop pretty nicely from here though. This little branch here that I've been using to try to heal this thing up. It's funny, I broke that branch off trying to show it to you guys. I wanted to leave that one and was thinking about cutting this one off because it's actually going that way. But now I want to leave a growing tip on there. Almost wish it was wire time. I could wire it into a better spot, but we'll just see what happens. I don't feel like, right now I've got wire on a bit too many trees. I'm keeping an eye on a lot of them. Even though I am off for the summer, next thing you know, school starts again pretty quickly on me and everything. And I just don't want to get caught up where I have too much to do all at once. And there's nothing wrong with just letting them grow for a while, so I am just going to let it grow. If I was to take this out, I don't know if you guys, there's a big aerial root there that is kind of incorporated with that little stump. And I'm afraid that if I took that out, you guys can kind of see here, if I took that out, what it would look like, I think it would look better. But if that big aerial root for some reason got destroyed as I tried to kind of rip it off, it's going to take some work to get it off. But if that didn't live, or if that didn't make it, I really have a reverse taper issue, just simply because that really thickened up that piece of the trunk there. And you can see, it may not be, but you can see just visually it looks as if this part of the tree is so much thicker than the main trunk down there, where with that still there, it helps quite a bit. And if it was missing, it'd be a lot more noticeable how much skinnier the trunk is at the bottom there. But again, that'll just be, repot time whenever that comes along. I think it's looking pretty good for now.